such as scholarships, university.
Welcome to Catcher Africa, Inspire the World.
Catcher Africa's mentorship is a program that aims to support the personal and professional development of rural high school students, by inspiring them and connecting them to professionals to improve their professional, soft as well as life skills in Africa. Our monthly webinar series Education Beyond Borders, and After Education Beyond Borders are aimed at sharing information about studying abroad, such as scholarships, university applications, and life in general, and the role of African diaspora in the development of the continent. Catcher Africa Student Exchange Program promotes language and cultural exchange between high school students in rural Africa and high school students in Japan. Catcher's Community Exchange Program aims to facilitate cultural exchange among senior citizens in rural Kenya and Japan. Through this program, we also hope to promote an exchange of ideas and knowledge aimed at solving social issues. We are currently looking for volunteers to work with us. If you are interested in joining this great team, kindly send your CV to info@catcher.org. You can also visit our social media pages, Catcher Africa on Facebook and @Catcher Africa on Instagram. We are looking forward to hear from you. Goodbye for now.
Welcome to Catcher Africa, Inspire the World.
Catcher Africa's mentorship is a program that aims to support the personal and professional development of rural high school students, by inspiring them and connecting them to professionals to improve their professional, soft as well as life skills in Africa. Our monthly webinar series Education Beyond Borders, and After Education Beyond Borders are aimed at sharing information about studying abroad, such as scholarships, university applications, and life in general, and the role of African diaspora in the development of the continent. Catcher Africa Student Exchange Program promotes language and cultural exchange between high school students in rural Africa and high school students in Japan. Catcher's Community Exchange Program aims to facilitate cultural exchange among senior citizens in rural Kenya and Japan. Through this program, we also hope to promote an exchange of ideas and knowledge aimed at solving social issues. We are currently looking for volunteers to work with us.
Welcome to Catcher Africa, Inspire the World.
Catcher Africa's mentorship is a program that aims to support the personal and professional development of rural high school students, by inspiring them and connecting them to professionals to improve their professional, soft as well as life skills in Africa. Our monthly webinar series Education Beyond Borders, and After Education Beyond Borders are aimed at sharing information about studying abroad, such as scholarships, university applications, and life in general, and the role of African diaspora in the development of the continent. Catcher Africa Student Exchange Program promotes language and cultural exchange between high school students in rural Africa and high school students in Japan. Catcher's Community Exchange Program aims to facilitate cultural exchange among senior citizens in rural Kenya and Japan. Through this program, we also hope to promote an exchange of ideas and knowledge aimed at solving social issues. We are currently looking for volunteers to work with us. If you are interested in joining this great team, kindly send your CV to info@catcher.org. You can also visit our social media pages, Catcher Africa on Facebook and @Catcher Africa on Instagram. We are looking forward to hear from you. Goodbye for now.
Sorry, Robert, you are on mute. Could you please unmute?
Thank you for that. Good evening, good day, everybody in Africa. Good evening to everybody in Japan, or parts of Asia, like where I am. Good very early morning to anybody who might be in the Americas. Let's see. My name is Robert Cooper. I'm a volunteer at Catcher Africa, and I'm your host for this webinar. Catcher is, very quickly, we are a group of volunteers from around the world. We are from a wide range of professions and fields of study. Some of us are still students. We promote education for a better world. by sharing our personal thoughts and experiences with younger people who are just starting out or thinking about their future, to help you and everyone gain perspective on yourself and on the options you have in this world. To do that, we bring you a variety of programs. We provide mentorship programs, mostly focused on rural African high school students. We host community exchanges where we bring together, if you maybe saw it in the video before, bring together usually rural communities in different countries or in the same country to exchange views on life and society and to learn from each other. And we conduct webinars. Most of our webinars are focused on how to find and take advantage of opportunities to study outside of your own country, whether that's the United Kingdom or South Africa or Japan, where some of us are, Mauritius, Ghana, USA, China, wherever outside of your country. That's what our webinars are usually focused on. And we also talk about what to do once you've attained such education. Today's webinar, however, is the first time that we're presenting a webinar specifically about mental health. All of our mental health and emotional health is directly related to what you can achieve in your education. In fact, of course, as we probably all know, every aspect of all of our lives is directly impacted by our state of mind, by our happiness or lack thereof, by our self-confidence, what we could say in one term, by our mental well-being. However, also, as we know, dealing with mental health or even talking about it, and sometimes even thinking about it yourself, has been a taboo everywhere in the world for most of history. Why? I think personally, it's because the root of our own minds, the cause of our own emotions, has for a long time, forever almost, been a complex mystery. But now we know so much about what makes us feel the way we do. And we know that everyone is challenged to maintain their happiness at one point or another in their lives. So there are many techniques now available to get in touch with what makes us tick inside and to maintain our mental and emotional well-being, to help us feel better and therefore to do better in everything that we do. Now, to introduce you to our guests and to help us through today's session, I'll turn the floor over to Pauline, our moderator for today.
Thank you very much, Robert, for that great introduction about our organization, KCHR, and we're great to have you. Okay, my name is Pauline Kimathi, and I also volunteer with KCHR Africa, and I will be your moderator today for this webinar. So guys, we have two amazing guests that we're going to hear from them today on the aspect of mental health and how important it is for us to be well when it comes to our well-being and our mental. So our first guest today will be Dr. Pauline from WCC, that is World Council of Churches. She is Reverend Dr. Pauline, and she's going to share with us what is the role of religion when it comes to mental health and how they can help us navigate. And before she speaks, Brian is going to introduce her because Brian works with Dr. Pauline, and Brian is going to give us like a short introduction, a brief introduction about the organization, and then thereafter we're going to have Dr. Pauline. So guys, we don't want to miss this amazing webinar that we have. So I would like to ask you that make sure that you wear your smile throughout this webinar and smile all along, because it's all about staying happy and staying confident. And what you can actually do is just sit back, relax, you listen, learn, and make sure you share with the people who think they may be able to benefit from this webinar. So you can share on your social media pages and also follow us. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and also we are streaming it live on Facebook, so you can go ahead and share with the rest of the community. So without wasting much time, I will call in Brian, who is going to give us a brief introduction about the organization and Dr. Pauline. So Brian.
Thank you so much, dear Pauline. Thanks so much, dear Pauline. Allow me to welcome you, friends, to this very wonderful webinar. My name is Brian Muyunga. I am a student at St. Paul's University, Lemuru. My task is simple. I'm introducing to you the World Council of Churches, Ecumenical HIV and AIDS initiatives and advocacy Eastern Africa, the organization that is giving us our first speaker this afternoon here in Eastern Africa. The World Council of Churches, briefly, is a fellowship of churches which confess Jesus Christ as God and Savior according to the scriptures, and therefore seek to fulfill together their common calling to the glory of the one God, and that's Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is a community of churches on their way to visible unity in one faith and one Eucharistic fellowship expressed in worship and in common life in Christ. WCC seeks to advance towards this unity as Jesus prayed for his followers in John 17:21, so that the world may believe. WCC simply brings together churches, denominations, and church fellowships in more than 120 countries and territories throughout the world. And these churches and denominations and fellowships represent over 580 million Christians. All the programs of the organization aim to support the member churches and ecumenical partners to journey together in promoting justice and peace in our world as an expression of faith in the triune God. At the moment, WCC focuses its work in the following program areas. One is unity, mission and ecumenical relations, public witness, and diaconia and ecumenical formation. And all these programs share a responsibility for transversal issues such as strengthening relationships with member churches and ecumenical partners, spiritual life, youth engagement, interreligious dialogue and cooperation, and building a just community of men and women. It is under the World Council of Churches that we have the ecumenical HIV and AIDS initiatives and advocacy, also called EHIA. What EHIA does is to promote HIV competence among churches and theological institutions, addressing the root causes of the HIV and AIDS pandemic. The program intentionally involves church leaders and theologians to engage with all people who are usually excluded when it comes to addressing HIV and AIDS related challenges. And this includes people living with HIV themselves, people with disabilities, adolescents, the youth, women, men, parents, grandparents, sex workers, people injecting drugs, prisoners, migrants, the sexual minorities, and other marginalized groups of people. EHIA has 5 regional offices. One is in Eastern Africa, based at All Africa Conference of Churches in Nairobi. There's an office in Central Africa, in Southern Africa, in Northern Africa, and the Lusophone. So if you are in those areas, you can just find out where the EHIA offices are and you visit them. What does EHIA do? EHIA simply uses contextual Bible studies and intergenerational safe space conversations to address issues of sexual and gender-based violence, sexual and reproductive health education and rights, transformative masculinities and femininities, and faith, health, and healing. EHIA also develops literature on life-affirming theologies and works with theological institutions in mainstreaming HIV, gender, and health and healing in theological education. Under EHIA, we have a program known as Thursdays in Black, which is an advocacy tool used against violence of all forms. And if you love to know more about what EHIA is and what EHIA does, I request you to just visit the website, https://www.okomene.org, and then you'll be able to see EHIA. Even if you just punch in the word EHIA in the Google, you'll be able to get much about that organization. So our first speaker is the Reverend Dr. Pauline Njiru. The Reverend Dr. Pauline Njiru is the Eastern Africa Regional Coordinator of the World Council of Churches, Ecumenical, HIV and AIDS Initiatives and Advocacy since 2009. She has been a priest of the Anglican Church of Kenya since 1992, and she holds a doctorate from St. Paul's University in Mission Studies. Her areas of expertise include gender, with a focus on transformative masculinities and femininities, religion and public health, with a special focus on SGBV, HIV, COVID-19, and mental health, and working with people on the margins, especially the grandmothers parenting grandchildren orphaned by HIV and AIDS within Eastern Africa. Reverend Dr. Pauline mastered in development studies at St. Paul's University, and also obtained a master's in theology of mission and ministries from the University of Nottingham, UK. And allow me take this very honorable privilege to invite Reverend Dr. Pauline to speak to us on the role of religious leaders in promoting mental health. You're welcome, Dr.
You're muted, Dr. Pauline.
Dr. Pauline, we can't hear you. Kindly unmute.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Thank you very much, Brian, for introducing me. And I am grateful to Kecha, our colleagues in Kecha, for giving us this opportunity to share this platform with you. So the World Council of Churches has been very well introduced by Brian. There is much we could say about what we do and who we are and how we do it and with whom, but time does not really allow us to do that. And that is why there was an invitation to go into the website and learn more about our youth engagement, learn more about the assembly, which is coming soon, learn more about what we do so that you can see the linkages where we can work together. I'm looking at mental health, the role of religious leaders. And I begin by asking us, what is mental health? It is a continuum of our emotional state, psychological state, social well-being, and it is all about what we think, how we feel, and how we act. It determines how we relate with other people and how we make decisions as well. This presupposes that there could be mental disorders, and mental disorders have a wide range of symptoms, mainly abnormalities in thought, emotions, behavior, and relationship with others. Common conditions of mental disorders include depression, suicide, dementia, mood disorders, and neurological disorders. People of all ages and economic status can suffer from these disorders. Where do we see the burden of mental disorders or mental health disorders?
Right.
We have seen that in the last decade, mental health disorders have increased by about 13%, and around 20% of the world's children and adolescents have a mental health condition, with suicide being ranked the second leading cause of death among adolescents and young people between 15 and 29 years. Even when some mental problems do not cause death, they cause 20% of disabilities. And more commonly, among people living in conflict situations, it is estimated that 2 of the most common mental health conditions are depression and anxiety. Those alone cost the global economy around $1 trillion each year. So, if this problem is so mega and we are people of faith, we are asking ourselves, Can religious leaders help in any way? And the answer is yes, they can. In the midst of this reality, religious leaders are called to be a channel of peace, hope, and healing and reconciliation. They can lead the way in providing models of a comprehensive approach that can remove the burden of mental disorders and preventable deaths which are caused by mental disorders. Religious leaders can serve as contact persons or contact points for health service providers. They can be linkages to care. For example, we know that children suffering from mental disorders are hidden in families to avoid the shame and stigma that comes with it. Religious leaders having the capacity to penetrate in those communities can serve as contact points to link these people to health service providers and to health facilities where they can get help. Religious leaders can also open up their own spaces for mental health education so that people are educated on how to detect and how to deal with or to handle or address the related challenges caused by the mental disorders. And this we know that knowledge is power, and therefore religious premises can be a safe and effective space to provide critical health education on mental health issues. Religious leaders can also create safe spaces for intergenerational conversations to address challenges facing each group. Each group, I mean, challenges facing the young people, the adolescents, parents, guardians, and also the religious leaders themselves. And one of our key strengths in a higher is that we build capacity of religious leaders to be able to do this in their own setups. The other thing that religious leaders can do is that they can initiate religious practices that inspire to care for and support each other and to be active participants and agents of change in their communities and beyond. These can be activities that the religious communities can carry out within themselves, within their own circles, or activities that they can carry out or practices that they can carry out beyond their own circles to reach out to the greater community. Religious leaders can engage in mental health advocacy. That is advocating with governments, also advocating with those in other sectors of leadership, so that we have access to health care and access to provision of services for those who much need them. They can also mobilize for financial resources to support mental health programs. Religious leaders can preach and teach in a manner that ends stigma associated with mental illness. And this preaching and teaching doesn't necessarily need to just happen on pulpit. It can also happen when they reach out in the communities, like I said earlier, and they discover people who have been isolated because of their mental conditions and really educate them to be able to come out and defeat stigma so that they can access help. Religious leaders can also offer solutions to other social issues that cause mental illness. Such issues may include, but are not limited to, violation of human rights, sexual and gender-based violence, conflict in war-torn areas, poverty, employment, unemployment, sorry, not employment, and stigma and discrimination. So when these issues, which seem to fuel or provide fertile grounds for mental illness, are dealt with, it is possible that the level and the number of cases can be reduced significantly. In conclusion, therefore, I say that the religious leaders have a very key role to play in creating healthy communities, communities where mental health is upheld and given a priority. But we all also have a role to play in easing the burden of mental disorders. We are called to love and care for each other, and we can all observe the golden rule, doing to other people what we would like them to do for us. And that means that if we would like what we'd like other people to do for us. If that is what we do, then the community exercises and experiences love, and that love can reduce these mental cases to a great extent. Thank you very much.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Pauline, for reminding us that religious institutions also, they have a role to play when it comes to mental health, that we don't have only to run to psychologists for counseling and everyone, but there's also an extended arm from you guys so that we can come and seek help from you, and you're open and you're aware of these issues that are happening in the society, and you are willing and ready to help. So we appreciate that, and thank you very much. And we will continue doing the good work that you're doing. So I will introduce you guys to our next guest, who is Dr. JOYCE Wangari. And allow me to give you a little brief about Dr. JOYCE Wangari before she comes to speak to us. And don't forget, guys, as I said, this is about happiness, staying happy and staying confident. So you don't have the luxury, like to sit back and not to be happy during this webinar. So be happy, stay confident, and remember to share with each and every person that you think they can benefit from this webinar. So Dr. JOYCE Wangari is a consultant, clinical psychology, and a research mentor with 15 years as a researcher and a storyteller who has earned a global award at the American Psychology Association, that is APA, in the United States. She also gave a TED talk on humor and resilience in 2020, and I can say that it was awesome. It was humorous. I was able to listen to it, and it was good. So guys, being on TED platform, it is not just an easy thing. You need to have polished yourself and have great content for you to be there. So I don't think you can afford to miss this one from our very own Dr. JOYCE Wangari, who is going to take us through. So listen, learn, and make sure you share. Dr. JOYCE, take the mic, please.
Thank you so much, Pauline, for that kind introduction. And thank you, Ketchup, for this opportunity. I'm so delighted to be joining in. Can you imagine now with Zoom, we can be in all corners of the world and also from our bedrooms, quite literally all of us together here today. So I'm really honored by this chance. I also learned a lot about what Reverend Dr. Pauline Njiru is doing, and I'm really amazed at the work of people of the cloak, especially because we know that the church or religious institutions hold a huge number of people, and therefore it's just really amazing to learn that the church has taken on a social justice approach and really just going outside, we say just going outside the gates of the church and actually being with the people in whatever they're going through, and including mental health work. It makes our work so much easier from where I'm sitting as a mental health practitioner. So today I'd like us to at least have some writing material. If you need to go get your notebook from wherever it is, if you have a pen, that will be useful because we will be designing our own well-being plan. We will be looking at what things we are doing that are working, that we can continue to do. And Dr. Pauline has given us a wonderful overview of what mental health and well-being is. We'll also be looking at the things that we probably need to stop doing that are not very useful, and so that we can have sustainable mental health and well-being. And if I crack a joke in the middle of this session, please laugh, even if I cannot see you, even if a lot of you are off video, and I'll be happy to, keep this quite conversational so that we can all participate together. The other thing I'd like to also inform you is that at the end, we will do a breathing exercise. So yeah, we will practice well-being in the moment as well. All right. So I hope you now all have your writing materials. I'm assuming so because you're very good learners. All right. So I'd like us to begin with this picture. I'd like like you to please type in the chat. What do you see on the right of the slide? What do you see in the picture? Can you describe what you see? If you are able to see my screen, what are you seeing? Whenever somebody is on Zoom, it's always good to check if people are paying attention. So just type whatever you can see in the picture. I'll give you a few seconds. Happy ladies, thank you. Marie Ishizeki, two ladies smiling and something. Okay. Notebooks. Ah, okay. Two happy ladies having a moment. All right. So I'm not sure if all of you can see my screen, but I can see a lot more chats are coming in. Yes, I see you can see my screen. Anyone else who can see? What else?
We can see.
Yes.
Yes. Good. No, I'm happy to take any descriptions. So what can you see on the screen? It's okay if you are unmuted, you can talk, no problem. I'll take one more, then we continue. You busy, the Nesta says, we are following you so much. Thank you. Great, wonderful. The reason I'm asking about what you can see in the picture is that staying happy and staying confident is not always what it looks, okay? So you might think, oh, this is just the permanent picture all the time. Are we always happy and confident? We'll find out, all right? So I hope you're now getting that. I'd like a very highly interactive session, and so far so good. You're doing very well. So today's well-being session goals will be: one, to understand what well-being is, the importance of staying happy and confident as much as possible, and two, to develop your own personalized well-being self-care plan. So create a plan that is holistic and integrated. Then number three, put your self-care plan into action. And when we are moving into action, it's always good to discuss any challenges or barriers that you may be facing in incorporating self-care, short-term, long-term, individually, collectively, and so on and so forth, in order that you can have long-term success in your career and life development. So that's what we are up to in this session today. So again, I'd like to see if you have mastered the chat function on Zoom. So on a scale of 0 to 10, please select one number. You can round up to the nearest whole number and tell me, how are you feeling today? 0 being very sad, like helpless, depressed. 10 being very happy, like elated, like you can see the emojis or the smileys on the screen. So please take a number that's not a decimal, a full whole number. Let's say Pauline says 7, Robert says 8, Christine 6, Paul 5. Wow. Marie 6, well done 6. It looks like so far most people are on their happier side of things. All right. 5 is like so. It's in between, and that's all right. Thank you for sharing. Let's take some more sharing. We are more participants in the room, so let me wait for a few more. I see 6 there. I see a 7. Keep sharing. Okay, I see a 2. All right, thank you for sharing. A 7, a 6. Wow, I wish I was a mathematics quiz. Maybe I would be able to calculate the average of all the members of today's webinar. Now, this is so fantastic. We are all on different levels in the mood scale, and we are all at different happiness levels, and that's fine. I see a 6 and 8. Any more? Okay, great. Thank you for paying attention to the screen. So I'd now like us to take our pieces of paper and write items 1 to 10. So just write in a vertical column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to do another test. It's not a test like the one in school. It's just a skill, an assessment skill that we are going to do now. And as you can see on the screen, there are 10 items. So please number the list from 1 to 10. You can put a star next to the following numbers, and don't worry about the star, it's just a star. You can put an asterisk in front of number 3, number 5, number 8, number 9, and number 10. So those 5 items will have an asterisk or a star in front of them. But just put only the numbers. You don't have to copy everything from the screen. I'm going to read out each item one by one, all right? So I'd like you to reflect over the past 2 weeks. So from about mid-May until now. And please read each statement with me. I'll read it aloud and record a number 0, 1, 2, or 3. So those are the options. You can see the scale at the top there. So you'll either indicate 0, or which means strongly agree, or 1, you disagree, 2, you agree, or 3, you strongly agree, which indicates how much the statement applied to you over the past 2 weeks. So there are no right or wrong answers. Do not spend too much time on any one statement, just whatever comes to mind, yeah? So this is an assessment that we are going to actually score, and the results we will discuss shortly, all right? So I'm going to start reading each item in case anybody is having trouble to seeing the items. So item number 1, I feel that I am a person of worth, at least on an equal plane with others. So I'm assuming that nobody is lost. You're all with me. All right, I'll proceed. So for item 1, which score would you like to put there? Is it 0, strongly disagree? Is it 3, strongly agree? Or is it disagree or agree? So put a number at the end of that statement. Okay, great. Item 2, I feel that I have a number of good qualities. So take an answer, either 0, 1, 2, or 3. Okay, then item 3, all in all, I am in, oh, you don't have to write in the chat, okay? So for this particular exercise, please write it in your journal, your notebook, your writing material. Hopefully it's not a piece of paper that you'll throw away soon. Something that you can keep and even do the test again in future. Okay, so please don't write your answers in the chat. This one you can keep private. It's your property. Okay, so let's go to number 3. All in all, I am inclined to feel that I am a failure. So indicate your answer, either strongly disagree, disagree, agree, or strongly agree. Okay, question 4, I am able to do things as well as most people. So you either write 0, 1, 2, or 3. Question 5, I feel I do not have much to be proud of. Okay, indicate your score there. All right, question 6, I take a positive attitude toward myself. Question 7, on the whole, I am satisfied with myself. 8, I wish I could have more respect for myself. 9, I certainly feel useless at times. 10, at times, I think I am no good at all. All right, for those people just coming in now, don't worry. You can always take these tests, you know, on your own. I will give you the name of the test shortly so that you can actually follow. It's a really short test, and it's always good at the top of the scale to write today's date so that if you do it again in future, you can then compare. So here is how we are going to score the test. For the items that you put an asterisk, that is item 3, 5, 8, 9, and 10, you will reverse your score as follows. So if you had written under item 3, you had written the score of 0, change that to 3, just for the purposes of scoring, okay? In item 5, the same, item 8, the same, item 9, the same, and item 10, the same. So you're going to reverse the score. As you can see, this Likert scale, the 0 becomes 3, the 1 becomes 2, the 2 becomes 1, you switch them around, and if you had written 3, it becomes 0, okay? So once you reverse these 5 items, you put the new score there, and you add up the scores. The other scores remain the same. Is anybody lost? All right.
Yes.
I'm just checking. Yes, please ask your question.
Please come again about the reversing.
Okay, good. Yeah, all right. So you had filled in this scale, and items 3, 5, 8, 9, and 10, you had put an asterisk in front of them, right? So for these 5 items, I would like you to take the score you indicated, the answer, not the number of the question, the answer inside item 3, and change it. You edit the answer. So if you had indicated under item number 3, you had indicated the score of 0, for example, you change that answer to 3. Do you get it now? All right, so your total possible score is 30 because there are 10 items and the highest point of the scale is 3, okay? So please add up your scores and indicate the total in your notebook. Again, you don't have to share it in the Zoom chat. This is your reflection. So this scale is called the Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale, and it measures self-confidence. All right. Anybody else who is lost? All right, I think we are all together. So now, after you have gotten the total score, you can do these tests again in future anytime in order to compare your scores. Are they improving? Are they the same? Are they reducing? So typical scores around the median are around 22. So if you've scored between 15 and 25, that's the normal range. If you have a score that is less than 50, it may suggest low self-esteem or low confidence, can be an issue for you. But just remember, this is a single assessment. It does not give a full diagnosis. It is just for information. And of course, if you are distressed by any, if you're concerned about your results in any way, or you're distressed about anything on the scale, please, you need to speak with a qualified health professional, and you can, explore that. All right. So for those coming in, you can check out the Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale and do it on your own. If you Google online, it's actually free and open source, and you're able to take, this inventory about your self-confidence at any time. All right, can we proceed now? Looks like there's no question for me on that. This was just a self-reflection exercise, as I said, and feel free to do it again on your own, on a future date. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the work I do as relates to today's webinar. I work a lot with people with disabilities. I also work a lot in educational institutions. I'm currently the lead mentor at AIDA Africa, and I oversee thousands of researchers in online and offline research mentorship programs. Aside from my specialization of doing counseling with people with disabilities and their caregivers, the other thing I really enjoy to do is decolonization or decoloniality. So I'm very interested in the conversations going on between continental Africans and diaspora Africans, and students who've gone abroad and things like that, which is why I was really excited to learn about ketchup. So one thing I'd like us to pay attention to is the Utu philosophy. Utu is a Kiswahili word that is equivalent to Ubuntu, which you've also heard from South Africa, which means humanity. the philosophy of I am because you are. I'm sure you know about the story of Ubuntu and these children who, somebody offered to give them food and they say they can't eat on their own while their friends are all starving. And so the idea that I am because you are, we go farther together. I can go very fast alone, but if we go together, we go farther. So I'm only well if you are well. So this philosophy guides my work, and I'm leading the way in radical and Afrocentric self-care reforms, which are centering on wellness over illness. So notice that wellness has a we. It's about us collectively, and illness as an I. So that idea that a person is a person through other people. I see Njiru agree with me saying, yes, I am because you are. Yes, I see you. And again, when we say I see you in Utu philosophy, I see all of you and all that you represent and stand for. Great. So let me just piggyback on what Reverend Pauline Njiru talked about, and she very well illuminated what mental health is about. And just to expand a little bit, when she said it is a continuum, you can see on this diagram that there is a possibility for you to enjoy maximum mental health and minimal mental health. And to the left, you can see maximum mental illness and minimal mental illness. What is actually is that you can actually have maximum mental health at the same time with maximum mental illness. For example, Dr. Pauline Njiru talked about some people may suffer mental disorders or conditions such as depression, anxiety. People such as people who actually can't take medication for severe depression can enjoy maximum mental health, even when they are having very maximum or severe mental illness. So you can have a high sense of subjective well-being despite suffering from mental illness. So I know a lot of times whenever we think mental health, we think it's the opposite of mental illness. But this diagram reminds us that everything exists in a continuum. Some people even think mental health only means, either asylums or mental health institutions. That's where most people go with that, which is why you can see in my presentation, I'm interchanging mental health and mental well-being. They are almost synonymous, just like Dr. Pauline Njiru explained very well to us. So again, what is well-being? Just as we had before, this is the totality of our emotions, our thoughts, and how we relate with each other. There are no absolutes, it's all in a continuum. But look at the effects of stigma on mental well-being or fitness. A lot of people who have a diagnosis of a serious mental illness may be coping well, but may face a lot of discrimination in society. A lot of us still have not found a way in everyday language to have people feel comfortable and at ease. Most of the time, we attribute it to some idiosyncratic nature, something in their personality, or that there was something evil that happened in the family. There's a lot of shame around when people are struggling, suffering, starting from just in the office when people are working or at school, in colleges where people are studying and you begin to feel stressed and burnt out. There doesn't seem to be enough in our culture to support such people. In fact, such people, most of the time, we often think that they are lazy. So the next time you think of somebody as lazy, think again. Instead of judging this person with a moral lens, begin to ask yourself, where do you think they could be on the continuum of mental health and well-being? And instead of just asking somebody, how are you doing? And the person goes like, fine, really stay with the person and really find out how they're truly doing. Because a lot of us will say we are fine, but how fine are we? Really, how much are we enjoying truly our mental health at any time? Okay. So are we always happy and confident? I had asked that at the beginning, and I had asked you to look at the picture that was on the first slide. And that was for a reason, because confidence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. none of us were born with all the ready skills in, social interaction and in building our confidence, but it's an acquired skill that we all learned. That is a point of hope. It means that we can all improve in our confidence, especially in different settings and setups, in our life. So again, back to the mental health continuum. And if we all want to be happy and healthy, then we will be known as being thriving. You're thriving, you're flourishing, you're doing very well, you're excelling. But if you begin to struggle, you might feel unsettled. Now, on the other very extreme at the beginning there, you can see you can be in crisis or struggling. So someone may ask, what are the signs and symptoms of somebody who is struggling with their mental health? The hallmark symptom is there's a shift, there's a change in everyday activities. So for instance, if you're naturally a social and sociable person by your personality, you love being around people and you love talking a lot, suddenly you withdraw, okay? The opposite is also true. You might find somebody who begins to take a lot more alcohol and begin to talk a lot more than they usually do. That is actually an indication that there's something else that could be probably going on. So in education settings, of course, we know that academic performance begins to suffer, and a lot of us begin to feel frustrated and not keeping up, and the work is piling up in school, and that also can spread into other areas of our life, including career and social activity. So therefore, it's really important to begin to map anytime that you do not feel yourself, to begin to map out what you can do, what are the solutions or coping strategies that you can increase. Now, a lot of people, when they are stressed, they think, oh, I should just keep working. I should just do, studying the whole night and not sleeping. Well, actually, that's not a good idea. When you have very poor sleep, we know that that affects your memory, okay? And long term, it is actually a risk factor for depression, obesity, and a host of other health conditions. So instead of skipping sleep in order to excel in academics, instead of that, you can come up with a system where you are well-paced and you can organize yourself so that you don't have to wait up to the last day and procrastinate. And then you have a lot of stress towards the end of the school term. So I'd like to take some sharing again. In your own opinion, and looking at this picture, what do you think self-care is? What is self-care? Feel free to also type in the chat. You can also unmute. I'd like to hear one voice at least, or two. Or if you're not able to, then just type in the chat. Feel free to raise your virtual hand. So according to you, what is self-care? All right, Joylene says, taking some time to pamper oneself. Wow. Pauline, Dr. Pauline, taking time to serve you and to receive service. I like the part for serving and receiving, okay? Brian Muyunga says, self-care is all about taking good care of oneself. Christine, according to this picture, self-care is self-love. Wow, I like that. Galila Degu says, self-care has been defined as the process of taking care of oneself with behaviors that promote health and active management of illness when it occurs. Yes, I like that. It has aspects of well-being as well as, illness. Yeah. Paul Windy, appreciating yourself as an individual. Amancio, understand that there is a need of looking into your emotion and how it affects you. I like that. I would like to imagine on a day like today, it's a Saturday, that you woke up and you probably brushed your teeth, you had a bath and a few other, things you did for your self-care. You probably, drank something or eaten something today. And sometimes we think that self-care is only at the physical level, but I like that Amansha has introduced the dimension of also emotional, okay? All these things are interconnected, and you've done very well. If you want to keep sharing in the chat, do that. Robert Cooper, listening to how you're feeling and reacting appropriately. Okay, thank you for that. So what do you see in the picture? This slide is about the place of self-care for the emerging adults. Emerging adults are people aged around 18 to, it could be till 40 years, so young adults. So what do you see in the picture? Does anybody recognize any of these people? Michelle Obama or Meghan Markle? Does anybody know who they are? Yes, I see you're paying close attention. So Brian says, I know Michelle, Robert, Michelle Obama, wife of former President Obama, confident, successful ladies. Merkel, married to the royal, former First Lady USA. Yes, she's the former floaters. So in this quotes by these women, one quote says, your success will be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. And then the other quote says, you are enough just as you are. What are you getting from that? I see more chats. Jackie says, power women. So do you have people in your life that you look up to who are happy and confident, role models? They don't have to be celebrities like these two women. They could be people who are in your everyday life. Perhaps now you can reflect about if you have any people like this, that actually when you look at them, you are inspired to excel and to grow, okay? Dr. Pauline says, great ladies who saw above the confines of their powerful husbands. Oh, yes, that's true. Robert is good advice for everyone, not only women, but I was biased to bring women on the show because I'm a woman too. Thanks for that, Robert. Pauline says, Meghan, a great actor and wife to Prince Harry. Great. Do you also have any role models? Do you have people in your life who are happy and confident and you say, when I grow up more, I want to be like them? Christine says, actually, Michelle Obama is my inspiration. Yeah, she has written a book called Becoming. It's quite a narration about her life at the White House. So I think this is amazing, to hear from icons about, how they overcame challenges in their lives. All right. I don't see any other role models. Nobody else has spoken about any other role models. Okay, great. So sometimes it is good to look at your place and also admire those people who you think, are doing really well in their well-being, who keep being authentic, they take courage, and things like that. And these are the things that increase their confidence and happiness. Okay, let's see if we have anyone else sharing about that. Yes, Dr. Pauline says, my former boss, the Reverend Dr. Nyamura Njoroge. Wonderful. I'm glad you have someone you look up to. Although I consider you my senior, I would look up to you too, Reverend Njiru. Then we have Niyebizi, the next, to be rich, good family, living in love, emotional. Yeah, my supervisor, Professor Esther Mwombo. I see you do have role models. That's wonderful. Jackie says, Meghan is an example of courage and choosing happiness even outside the norms of the royals. Yes. Robert says, I am 60 and I have a role model who is 91 and so full of life. That is so amazing. So it never quite stops. Now, the thing is, when you have a role model, you can identify with this person. And instead of sitting, feeling, jealous and envious because, you know, our brains naturally would like to compare and despair. You know, when you compare yourself with a fellow human being, you may think, I'm not as good as this role model. But instead of that, you can actually use a role model in order to illuminate in your life the kinds of things you'd like to be and begin to practice them. So I'm going to be sharing some tips on how you can actually become better in relationships, successful and great by practicing just being happy and confident. I think the first thing is you need to be a little bit crazy and believe in yourself, okay? Beliefs are like self-fulfilling prophecies. So the minute you say, I can do this, I can get better, you know, you will actually begin to act consistently with your beliefs. You can't imagine this, but somebody like Michelle Obama suffered a lot of imposter syndrome, which affects a lot of successful people, whereby she did not feel like she was good enough. She was suddenly thrust in the limelight and she had to become a role model, and there was no preparation time, there was no turning back. She had to become, you know, a standard by which a lot of women, you know, looked to. So people who think that they are slightly above, you know, average actually behave like that. So again, if you're an optimist, you will most likely live longer, okay? You can be a leader, a parent, an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter in whatever facet of your life. You can begin to design your reality, you know, whenever you act as if you're actually happy and confident. It's almost like fake it till you make it. And this is the story that, you know, Michelle shares so powerfully in her book. Again, you can decide to be future focused. And when you're futuristic, then you're energized by the kinds of things you can create instead of, you know, always being stuck in what happened and a lot of regret and remorse. And we're going to look at some challenges of, you know, self-care. So we are doing well. I see more sharing in the chat. Where Chom says, this is a very delicious conversation. Okay, thanks for that. So now we are just about to begin to design our own self-care plan. And let's look at the types of self-care for optimal wellness or well-being or mental health. So what you see in the picture are some examples of physical self-care, good sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Those ones are the bedrock of physical self-care. So if you're here and you've not been exercising regularly, please take that up. If you've been eating a lot of junk food, we know that junk food does affect our mental health. And I know you are all very busy people. You might sometimes think, oh, I don't want to cook proper meal. I probably want to eat French fries, okay? So by eating healthy, you actually are able to think better. Then we can also look at social self-care, as you can see in this picture. With all the COVID regulations over the last few years, the whole world almost came to a standstill. And a lot of extroverts who are really energized by crowds and groups were having a hard time staying at home. You know, we had to observe physical distancing. A lot of people were really going through a lot of loss and grief over the last few years, and our social self-care was affected. And so it is good to actually look at your social self-care. Somebody needs to mute, please. All right. And the other type of self-care is mental self-care. What you see in the picture is this person who's playing a video game, and that is activating the brain. Now we know that moderate screen time is good. Playing a video game will activate, you know, your mental activity and have you become more alert and more attentive. But we also know that a lot of us now are struggling with our mental health or mental self-care because all of us now are able to access smartphones, and a lot of us are online for very long hours. So we have to be careful to moderate and probably have a boundary around how much, you know, online time that we need. And then spiritual self-care, as you can see, this person is probably praying I'm not sure, or meditating. And then emotional self-care, you can see a group of two women who are talking. And so these are some examples of self-care. Now, I want you to reflect on your own self-care. Are you doing things that you probably need to stop? Are there things that you're doing that are going well that you probably need to continue? I'd like you to think about that because we are just about to design our own self-care plan. Now, one of the things that have been happening, especially in Kenya, as we are almost getting into an election year, is that there's been a lot of negative news. News by its nature is negatively skewed. One of the things you might consider, if you're a person who always likes to get live updates of contemporary happenings around you, is you may want to consider that news can make you terrified, scared, uptight, distracted, negative. And this is because the way news is actually fashioned, it actually puts our brain on survival mode because bad news sells. You've seen how there are many hits on anything that is a bad news item, and it spreads a lot of pessimism and doom and gloom. One of the things that many people have found very useful recently is to actually regulate how much news you want to watch. Some people stopped watching news altogether. Now, I don't know if any of you are in the field of journalism or in the field of communication, but you will know what I'm saying when I'm saying that you can actually design and curate how much time you spend listening to negative news, and especially in the mass media, because in the mass media and in the social media, there's just a lot of negativity that has increased lately. The other thing that you may want to consider stopping to do is stop spending or investing your valuable time with people who always complain, they're always gloomy and pessimistic, you know. These are people who feel like they have control by just sharing a lot of very, very, very sad stories. Now, I'm not saying don't be there for your friends who are struggling. So you might find a friend who is usually joyful and happy, but is going through a tough time and needs you to listen. So in that case, then you can actually provide support as a friend and listen to your friend. You'll be providing social care to your friend, and they will be actually benefiting from that. What I'm saying instead is if you have somebody who's constantly complaining, never sees anything good, and even after you try to help or assist in any way, including listening, they don't seem to have any shifts or changes. There's no space for any, you know, compassion or joy for them. It's as you continue to listen to such a person, please refer this person for help. It could be your friend or your colleague. You probably now have thought of somebody like that who may need more professional help, okay? Now, those are the two things I recommend to stop doing. Too much negative news, and then listening to people who are complaining in order to feel a sense of control while not doing anything about the complaints, okay? But there's one thing that you can start doing that will be very, very useful is start feeding your mind deliberately with helpful, inspirational, optimistic, loving, joyful, compassionate kinds of input. A lot of us now are able to watch some things online. You can actually go and find, you know, scriptures that get you, you know, calm and peaceful inside so that you restore your well-being whenever you feel like your wellness is off. So I'm seeing somebody saying hello from Rwanda. Thank you so much, Agide, for that. All right, so I'm sure now you have all thought of different ways to improve your self-care. So again, the different facets of our life are such as emotional, financial, social, spiritual, occupational, physical, intellectual, and environmental. And if you look at this wellness wheel, you can see that a lot of spaces are shared in this diagram because these circles are going into each other, which means that wellness is interconnected. And just like Reverend Dr. Pauline Njiru mentioned, is that all of these different things have to work together integratively and holistically. So how are you doing emotionally? How are you able to cope effectively with life and create satisfying relationships? I know relationships is a major part of distress for a lot of us, because sometimes you have an expectation of a relationship and then maybe suddenly you're facing rejection, or you begin to suffer inside a relationship, okay? So look at all of these different facets of your life, and I'd like you to just, take a moment and reflect on them. Financial well-being. Are you satisfied with your current and future financial situations? Okay, your social well-being. Are you able to develop connection with other people and a support system that you can go to anytime? Okay. Spiritual well-being, expanding your sense of purpose and meaning in life. Occupational well-being, that is your world of work and career. Are you satisfied and enriched from your work, And then physical well-being. I already talked about the need for exercise, diet, sleep, and good nutrition. Intellectual well-being. Can you actually expand your intellectual skills and knowledge? You can sign up nowadays for a lot of courses that are free online, just like you're listening to this webinar today. Environmental well-being, are you able to actually live harmoniously with planetary life? All right. So think about all of this and any other facets of your life as well. All right. So now we are going to design your own self-care plan. Again, this is a private activity. Please write it in your notebook. And I'd like you to think about your self-care plan. What is missing? What is working well? Are you achieving an overall balance in your life? Is your life in balance? What might be the problem that can get in the way of your self-care plan currently? What things do you need to stop doing or avoid doing? And if you implement your plan, how might you feel? So let's take a moment to do this. Everyone on their own, you don't have to write in this Zoom chat. So you just write this in your notebook. So I'll give you about a minute to do that, since you've been thinking about it from the beginning anyways. So if none of these aspects are directly relevant in your life, that's okay. For example, if you're not working, you don't have to comment about your workplace. You just take the aspects that you think are relevant for you, and any other that I could have forgotten to list there. Robert says, so many aspects to our well-being. Yes. So this is a time when you can design your own self-care plan. All right, so I'd like to take some sharing now on if, okay, Galila says self-care helps to prevent stress and anxiety. Thank you for that. So we are going to put up your plan for the things you need to increase, the things you need to continue doing, the things you need to stop doing. And maybe let's begin with the challenges. Let's look at any barriers or challenges that may come in the way. A lot of people are actually working longer hours online. I don't know what time of the day it is where you are, but a lot of us have had longer days, because when you're online, as opposed to in the far past when there was no electricity or internet, people would sleep on time, and their sleep and wake cycle was quite balanced. But now with electricity and internet, a lot of people are staying up at night, okay? So there's a lot of stress, and that's a challenge of self-care. So many people, when you increase your workload, you forget to increase your self-care plan. So for example, if you have a really busy day and maybe you are in school and you are indoors studying for an exam, one very good tip would be to remember to go outside and take a walk, okay? So this struggle and burnout is quite real. Burnout has just been acknowledged by the World Health Organization recently to be an occupational hazard. It's a big risk for anybody in a high performance environment like an educational program. Now, there are other people struggling with how to start a conversation, keep a conversation, or maintain a conversation. So I'd like you to know that there are many tips online. You can literally go to YouTube and watch videos on the phrases you can use to actually maintain conversations. So maybe your struggle is that you've always been shy or anxious around people and you feel a little bit socially awkward, and that affects your confidence. Remember, today's webinar is about happiness and confidence. Some people are having challenges just balancing personal and professional life, and maybe they're not having enough support. Maybe you haven't looked and scrolled at the list of people saved on your phone and actually made them into your friends, okay? You could be struggling with lifestyle changes that are more chronic amidst the daily stress that is more acute, that's ongoing. You can add to any other challenge in your self-care plan that might be affecting you. Remember that you can write this in your notebook and also reflect about it even after the webinar with the goal of creating the solutions to these challenges. So I talked earlier about relationships, and especially during emerging adulthood, when a lot of people are seeking close relationships and they want to feel connected and intimately involved with some, maybe a partner or a group of friends, or just to confide in somebody. A lot of us suffer a lot of rejection. Now, rejection doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means the other person may have failed to notice what you have to offer, okay? So the skill in relational self-care is how to pick yourself up. For example, after a breakup, okay? So you need to believe in yourself, have faith in your abilities. You need a humble confidence that is also reasonable. We're not talking about being confident as being proud or arrogant or cocky, no. We talk about confidence in knowing who you are with good self-awareness, okay? So that you have the determination to succeed and not to give up. So you are confident in your own powers so that you can be successful and happy, right? So those are some challenges, of self-care. Now let's design some solutions. And I'd like to take some sharing from you. What are the things you're going to start doing and what are the things you're going to stop doing? I put up a little list, but you can add more. So maybe you need to make time for your favorite people. A lot of research has been done into the fact that if you made a phone call of only 10 minutes to somebody who you know has your back, this is your good friend, you can start to feel better immediately. So the next time you feel low or sad, remember that one friend that you would like to confide in or that you usually confide in. And just ask your friend when you can meet, or if you cannot meet at all, then make time just to talk to them, even just for 10 minutes. You begin to feel better and you'll feel happier and connected, okay? Another thing you can do for self-care long-term is to plan something to look forward to. I know especially a lot of us Africans are not used to planning out holidays, okay? But that's now becoming very important because you realize that over time, especially if you're handling a lot, you need a break, okay? You need to actually stop and do nothing for a while. So another thing is to challenge yourself physically, and increasing exercise has been known to be very, very good for your mood and your well-being. And of course, say goodbye to a bad relationship. If you need to let go of toxic relationships, then so be it. There's one other extra tip I want to add. For people who are always online, try to practice the 20-20 method. Look at least 20 feet away for 20 seconds every 20 minutes. to cut down on eye strain and give yourself a quick break. So a lot of us have been glued to this computer for a while or phone. I don't know where you're joining the Zoom from, but also we've had an increased number of people with headaches and eye strain because of online interactions. So you've got to be very careful and not strain your eyes or your head by concentrating for too long. Take regular breaks whenever you can. Great. So I'd like now for you to add to this list. What are you going to continue to do? And what will you stop doing? You can share any of those in your self-care plan that you created. So what are some solutions to some of your current challenges in self-care? I'd like to hear from you. All right, let me see in the chats. Delila had already said something. Paul says idle walks. I like that. Some people combine walking with talking with a friend or listening to music or observing nature. That is very relaxing. Thank you for sharing. Robert says, me too, idle walks. Yes. Our bodies were not made to sit still for a long time. Actually, if you exercise your muscles, you become strong and agile. And it's very important, especially as you grow older, for you to keep exercising. Brian Muyunga, I will begin setting an alarm for going to bed. Oh, I like that. In fact, every one of us should consider a time limit for getting offline. I see people are online even at night as they are sleeping, so that in the middle of the dreams, they wake up and, you know, they're back to scrolling on their phones. So that's a really good idea. You set an alarm for going to bed. And you can also determine how much, you know, online presence you need to have. Great. Anyone else? What will you start doing for your self-care? What will you stop doing? Having a plan is so good, yes. And keeping it is even better, I must add. So knowledge makes no difference, but knowledge which is applied into action, it's really amazing. Dr. Pauline Njiru, hanging out with friends just for fun, that's amazing. I love having a good laugh with friends and family myself. So I think that's a great idea. Umi Juma, spend more time with friends. Yes, that's great. Yeah, all of the ideas you've mentioned for your self-care plan are quite healthy. I've not had anybody say drink excess alcohol or something. So if you've been doing any of the harmful self-care activities, think about decreasing or completely eliminating them. So this is all very well done. So lastly, I'd like to end with this quote: may you have enough happiness to make you sweet, enough trials to make you strong, enough sorrow to keep you human, and enough hope to make you happy. All right, do we have anything else, or do I take us now to the breathing exercise at the end? Somebody says amen, Brian. Okay, thank you. So now I'd like us to try a breathing exercise. This is a very immediate self-care strategy for any person at any time. You could be traveling in a vehicle, you could be just lying down in bed. Whatever you're actually doing, especially if you begin to feel some overwhelm or anxiety or feel a little depressed, breathing can help to center you, especially if you're overthinking. You can stop being so self-absorbed in your thoughts and get present to what's around you. And that's a way of balancing and counterbalancing negative thoughts, okay? So when you breathe, you let go and remind yourself that this very moment is the only one you know you have for sure. So the idea of staying present, I'm sure you all know who Oprah Winfrey is. Chalika is laughing and saying, Umi, calling to the friend. Faith is saying, making time for journaling. Yes, keep typing in the chat, no problem. So this breathing exercise is called the 4-7-8 technique. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 7 seconds, and you breathe out for 8 seconds strongly as if you're blowing out a candle. And then we are going to pair it with a visualization exercise where you imagine that as you breathe in all the wonderful things, and you breathe out all the self-doubt and unhappiness. So are you ready? Okay, so feel free to sit comfortably. Notice where your feet are. If they're on the ground, are they comfortable? Notice if you're sitting in a chair, is it holding you? Notice how the chair is actually holding you up. Okay, Jackie is saying, I'm going to practice daily affirmations. Thank you. Keep sharing your self-care plan. So let us do this 3 times. And if you feel a little hyperventilated, it's okay. You might feel a little dizzy if you're not used to breathing deeply, but after a while that will disappear. Okay, so let's breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Notice how during breathing out, I breathed out strongly. So I also closed my eyes. Feel free to close your eyes if you want. Okay, let's do this 2 more times. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. And the last time, breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. All right, notice how you're feeling now. In one word, what are you feeling? Could you use an emotion word to describe how you're feeling? Christine says, breathing technique. Paul is asking, are we using the mouth or nose? That's a good question. So it's recommended to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you have a blocked nose today, that's okay. You can use the mouth for both. But that ensures that, you expel as much carbon dioxide as you can. We know biologically that stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of rest and digest and, relaxation. So a lot of you are saying you feel relaxed, relieved, kind of happy to, refreshed. Thank you so much. Anybody else? How are you feeling after the breathing exercise? Breathing well? Good. Yes, you start to become more intentional and deliberate about that. And you can even notice on the days that you're stressed, you probably are breathing shallowly. And so you use deep breathing to return yourself back to inner peace and calm. Deonesta, using sense organs, essential sensitivity. Yes, Galila, I could not do it because I had the flu. That's all right. No problem. You can always do it later. Kind of feel shortly reborn. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. All right, on that note, I'd like to say thank you and special thanks to Pauline for this connection. I have put up my contacts in case anybody would like further engagement. Thank you very much. Over back to you, Pauline.
Well, thank you very much, Joyce. That was so great. You've reminded us so much that we need to remember about our well-being and our self-care. So we're so grateful. And I hope that you're still happy, we're still confident. And after this, I promise, I'm going to review my self-care plan. And thank you for those tips that you gave us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So self-care is something that we all need to practice and our well-being. So probably before we go to the questions that we have, I would like to say that Dr. Joyce reminded me of a book that I read in 2020 last year, and it was talking about well-being that has resonated so well with the topic. And the book is by Ariana. It's called Thrive. It's called Thrive by Ariana, and she talks about two metrics of success. That was power and money. And she found the need to add extra pillars to that. And one, well-being was one of those pillars that she added. So she said that create your culture of wellness. So I would like to urge like every one of us, let's create the culture of wellness so that we'll continue to being better people and great people in this community. So probably we'd like to take any questions that we have for now. And as we wait, probably I would like to ask Joyce, maybe one question that most likely would resonate with most of us. Sometimes we find that we experience that stigma when it comes to coming out and saying that I am not okay mentally, I'm not well. So how do we like come out confidently without having to hide ourselves? Probably we are afraid that our friends might like think something about us, or probably we might become vulnerable in the society of the people that we are around. So how do we get that confidence? How do we come out and stand strong and say, I am not mentally okay, I need help, and this is where I want to start? So probably you can begin us from there.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I would say that sometimes we have experienced unfortunate incidences where you confide in a friend and you think that your friend is actually on your side, but maybe they're only listening so that they can go and gossip behind your back after that, or they decide to sneer and minimize or invalidate your current struggles. And that could be a reason why in future we may be feeling doubtful or hesitant or suspicious about sharing when we are struggling. I think the key is to identify wise people that we can confide in. Not everybody will have the proper time or the proper skill to help us, but you know a friend who actually can just listen to you respectfully, okay? Sometimes it's also really important to engage in self-advocacy and also tell your friends and family the kinds of responses that you would prefer, okay? So for example, a lot of us, and I think especially so men, are very happy to quickly advise somebody and try to fix a situation. Now, if somebody comes to you and they're saying that they've just lost a loved one and their loved one died, if you begin to give them advice very quickly, does it fix the situation? So it may actually be detrimental for you to advise. Advising sometimes is like poking somebody's eye. It might be more useful to just sit and listen and assure the person that you are with them. And by strengthening the relationship, this person knows that they can come to you, every time they have an issue, instead of, you jumping into giving them some quick advice, which may or may not work for them. So I feel like stigma has already been there in society, and people are biased against people talking openly about their struggles. There is a sort of pretense or a facade that we should all look very successful and happy all the time. But that's actually very dangerous, because then we cannot be authentic, we cannot be real, we cannot be genuine or original. So it's important that we continue sharing ourselves, but with the right people. Now, if in your immediate environment you cannot locate somebody, it's obvious that you can check online, but you can also look for professional help aside from informal support from family and friends, where you are assured of a dedicated listener. I am trained as a counselor, therefore in professional counseling, we uphold confidentiality. So if I listen to somebody and I am there doing counseling to them, then I'm not supposed to share what I had. And actually, it's a very, very strong ethical rule that we have to follow in our work. So I think that that's pretty much how to resolve stigma. It really comes out of self-empowerment, self-advocacy, and the wisdom of choosing a confidant who actually can walk with you through the journey.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Wangari. Self-confidence and choosing someone who can walk with you throughout this journey. So we have another question here. on our chat. And please continue typing your questions so that Joyce can take them as we continue. So we have a question from Paul Muindi, and he's asking, besides what we've covered, are there indigenous or traditional ways of dealing with mental health challenges? So Mid is asking about any traditional ways or indigenous ways of dealing with mental challenges. Do we have any?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, we do. And I mentioned some of them. From the Ubuntu philosophy, I am because we are, the idea of collectivism, the idea that we thrive well in society. You know, we are social beings, we need each other. So in your life, you may have achieved a level of independence as an adult, but the best life is where you are interdependent, where you actually can practice self-care or well-being by having another person take up something. For example, if on that day you are sick and you need to rest. So that's a very, very strong element of our culture. In our cultures, especially in Africa, a lot of us know that whenever there's any major life event or ritual, we do come together a lot. And people will come into the house and we'll cook and eat together and share together. And some people even think, you know, a cup of tea is the answer to all the stress. Is it really the cup of tea or is it the sharing? You know? And so these are some ways that we can foster inside our cultures that actually are supportive of mental health challenges. You know, there are also a whole range of herbal teas that you can use. There's a lot of good things in our immediate environment and from our indigenous cultures that we can borrow from, our ways of life, our culture, our diet, wholesome foods that have actually right now become very useful. There was a time lemon and ginger was nothing, you know, in the market, but now it's ever since COVID happened, you know, people are becoming really, really aware of indigenous foods and their role in mental health. I see another question from Gelila. How does self-care improve mental health? That's a good question. So as I said earlier, it increases your self-awareness. So you begin to notice, for example, when you're stressed, you might find that you're breathing shallowly. And so then that is your trigger or your alarm system in order to switch gears, stop overworking, and go and implement self-care. So self-care improves mental health by getting us quite aware and alert to what's going on in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits, in our emotions. And so therefore, by so doing, we can implement strategies to feel better, think better, and you know, socialize or interact better. I hope I've answered your question. All right, then Chalika. Okay. And Chalika asks, what kind of environment should one surround yourself with while depressed? That's a good question. So if you're able, you know, to access materials that will give you, you know, uplift your mood, give you, you know, a lot of us will listen to good music and even dance along, all right? And that's a great thing to do when you're depressed. If you're in a place where, you know, you can speak to certain people, as I said earlier, that you can confide in, I think that environment would really assist when you're depressed. Even just subtle, small changes, such as increasing lighting. Some of us maybe are in rooms with very dim lights, you know, and ensuring that you are looking after yourself in terms of you're not hungry, you know, you're not lonely, you're not angry, you're not tired. Those kinds of things really assist when someone is depressed. It's also good to look at the quality of our sleep. You might sleep long hours, but maybe you're in a really noisy place. But if you have good quality sleep, then that really helps with depression. So you can be authentic because in this world, a lot of people are putting up a facade, you know, a persona, a character, a fake face. And, you know, it feels like it's a choice between, you know, thriving and being yourself sometimes, but it's also good to take breaks, you know, and be really real to yourself. If you're not able to handle ongoing responsibilities at work or at school, then taking a break is a good option so that you are authentic and real to yourself, okay? So somebody says, how does one talk to a person with mental issues without making them feel bad in trying to offer mental health? This is really good. This question is about what I alluded to earlier, handling the relationship and strengthening the relationship, assuring the person that you're there, you're gonna listen. Also asking the person what they need. A lot of times when somebody is feeling so down, we assume to know what people need. That's the reason why we quickly start to advise them. So it's actually good to just pause and slow down and ask this person what they would find most useful at that time. They might even say, I don't want you to keep talking. I want you to leave me alone for a while. I want to rest, you know. Or they might say, I want you to stay by me, feeling a little bit lonely, okay? So another question, how can one balance empathy and cutting out negative energy and complainers? I like that. Everyone will be in a funk for sure. Is it likely that there will be no community in future because of the intolerance to negative spaces? I so agree with you, Sophia. There has been a decrease in empathy and compassion and the Utu value or Ubuntu values. I do agree that a lot of people have become very cold-hearted and callous and quite a bunch of negative energy and complainers. Now, I know it's not always possible to stay away from these people, but you can decrease their impact on yourself. So in life, it's not so much what happens to you, but what you do with what happens. And you can craft a response in a lot of toxic situations. Sometimes if you're able to, you can literally stand up and walk away, you know? But if you have to constantly be near a lot of toxic energy, then you can increase your self-care and have another different place, which is safe for you to discharge, you know, of that toxic energy. And it's true that our community, the social fiber in our community is really at risk. There's a lot of, you know, intolerance to negative spaces. Now, the boundaries between empathy are about you determining whether you have enough inside your emotional tank, okay, to be able to assist this person right now. So you cannot give from an empty cup. So sometimes you want to be empathetic to somebody, but you haven't actually worked on your own self-care. You're not calm. You're not able to actually be there for somebody else. So it's a really good idea to have the person hold on and you go get somebody else who actually can, you know, be with this person if you feel so triggered and you need to go take care of your own needs. So I hope I have answered you. How can one manage someone with a mental problem? I think I had already answered that earlier. Emphasize the relationship, seek professional help whenever needed, go and work on your own, increasing your own self-care, very critical and important, okay? And how will you help those who mask their problem? So a lot of times people respond to kindness, okay? And kindness can sometimes be an act of courage. So it's only after people know that you genuinely have their back, you genuinely care, you're there for them, that they can actually begin to listen to you talking about a certain aspect of something they can improve. For example, people who mask their problem, maybe because they actually have no awareness about their problem at all. So they might also be in denial in terms of they know, but they don't want to begin to take any action. With a solid relationship, it's easy for you to actually correct a friend. But the reason why a lot of people resist any kind of help is because it's brought up with a lot of hostility and without any sense of that we are in this together, you know? If you blame somebody for their problem, then they will close up. One good technique to use is I statements. You can say, I feel really distressed when I see you like this. That way, this person doesn't have to be defensive. You're talking about your experience to them, okay? Then there's another question here. Let me know if your questions are getting answered. When some people are depressed, doctors hold sessions for such people to share and listen to other depressed people. What is the logic behind that? Oh, this is so interesting. There's a wonderful project in Zimbabwe called the Friendship Bench, where actually people just sit to talk. So as I said earlier, people are social beings. There is something bigger than the two of us when we have an interaction. There is your conversation, my conversation, and then something we create together. And that's the space of transformation. So the idea of support groups where people share and listen with each other are quite affordable and sustainable way for self-care. So if you can actually begin to notice and detect, negative thoughts that are leading to depression in yourself and in other people, then you can be quite useful in those groups. They are not always recommended. Sometimes somebody needs to switch from the support group setting to maybe handling their depression inside of individual therapy, like on their own in a personal therapy space. So depending on, the severity and the level of depression, and if somebody is aware that this group is there for the purpose of healing. So healing groups are great because people can not only confide in each other, but also support each other to grow, literally. That social support is what we need a lot of times. Then another question is, when do you think one should have a break, not a breakup? And do you think it can help to cool the situation at hand, or it can worsen? Well, this is a really good question around emotional boundaries. Now, relationships are like institutions. You can be burnt out, just like the same way you can get burnt out in a school, at work. When stress goes overboard, you can get burnt out and very exhausted. So I think that increasing your self-awareness lets you to determine when you are out of balance. Now, when you need a break. I think the underlying question here is, how can you actually effectively communicate that it is just a break, not a breakup, and hope that this person will not go for good and that you can come back later together? So this is a really important point around emotional boundaries. Sometimes in relationships, when things go sour, we do need breaks. But the most important thing is that relationships should be founded on care and compassion and love. And so the communication about whether this is going to be an indefinite break and that you will be the one contacting them later, or you could also have a specific deadline and say that on this particular day, I'm going to try to reach you to give you an update on our relationship status, okay? And of course, a lot of these conversations are best done face-to-face. I've seen a lot of times when people are having relational conflicts, trying to do a lot of things over the phone or online. The problem is that sometimes that communication can be misunderstood because, there are lapses in time and replies and, even just incomplete information online. Okay, then there's a question here. Do insane people also experience mental health issues? If so, how do you help them out? That's a really good question, although we actually do not use the word insane, it's pejorative. There are lots of people who have lots and lots of, mental health issues. And in most cases, people suffering psychosis, they do know that they are, suffering from a mental health condition. And so how to help them out is to seek out a social safety net. So for instance, if you find somebody who's having a meltdown in public, you should, because if you're their friend, you should have an idea of the immediate places they can go get help. Probably you already got their doctor's number, and you can easily lead this person into a doctor's room in order that they can either get medication or get an injection that they need to feel better, okay? So they do experience mental health issues. And as Dr. Pauline earlier alluded to, there is lots of different diagnoses that are given, and helping them out could be just identifying what you think they may need, And also keeping some contacts of the people in their lives so that they are able to, get assistance in a timely way. Yes, well done.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Pauline. Let me just quickly ask a question here from one of the viewers from our Facebook page, Ruben. So he's saying, what are legal measures? Should someone? Okay, let me try to rephrase that question. What are the legal measures that someone should take if confidentiality of certain matter is breached or shared to someone else whom you don't have the story of attorney, I guess. I guess I think you talked a little bit about confidentiality, right? So I think the question is what are some of the legal measures if someone wants to go against that?
Is that general or in a medical setting or with a doctor? Did they specify?
No, they didn't specify.
Okay, so in the case of a mental health professional like myself, if I break confidentiality, there are legal measures that can be taken. Although currently, for instance, in Kenya, the mental health laws are not yet implemented. But one good thing would be to report an ethical violation, perhaps in these providers, maybe a professional association where they have membership, because we do get annual licenses and our work is monitored through supervision. Therefore, this person can get a warning. If you're not able, of course, the first line of action is you talk to the person directly. Now, if they're hostile and you're not able to tell them or anything in the way, then you go to the next step, which is then speaking to somebody in their professional association so that they can be given a warning. There's a lot of ethics around the reasons why confidentiality have to be maintained. And I must say, sometimes our work is not easy because we work with families. So you might find different family members at home. They are free to discuss about us anytime at home, but they might come to the office and one at a time, they might begin to talk about other members of their family as part of their story. And so sometimes it gets a little bit complex, and I see the reason, that could be the reason that person asked the question. But first line of action, you ask the person to stop, just like you would handle, a bully or somebody who was being unpleasant. And if they are not responsive, that's when you go to the next line, which means, reporting them to the authorities.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Joyce. Probably I will ask one question to Dr. Reverend Pauline. So do we have like aftercare services, probably after counseling for people with mental health issues? And what are the importance of like aftercare services? And what are some of these aftercare services? So Dr. Reverend Pauline. Dr. Pauline, would you take that? Or Joyce can go ahead as we wait. Well, we can take that Joyce as we wait for her probably.
All right.
Sorry, I missed the question. My network was playing.
Oh, great. Great, you're back. So I was asking, do we have some of the aftercare services for people probably who have gone through counseling and also they're experiencing mental health issues? Do we have aftercare services? And if we do, what are some of these services that those people can get from probably your institutions?
Okay, as I said earlier, that religious institutions and religious leaders can act as linkages to care. What you'll find is that what we encourage most of the religious leaders is that they don't take up these counseling laws, because we know that there's in their ministry there's a thin line between pastoral care and counseling, and you find that their codification is more towards pastoral care more than towards counseling. So we encourage that, yes, you can offer accompaniment, but when you find that this person needs specialized care, then you need to refer. Now you'll find that there are many people that we work with who are in the psychology and counseling departments, whom then we would be the people to refer. In some church institutions, especially here in Nairobi, they have counselors on call, and they have counseling psychologists on call, and therefore reaching to a religious leader who is well informed, then one would directly be linked into care. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Pauline. I think that is so important. The aftercare service is a service that is meaningful, because once I believe someone has gone through counseling, they need a follow-up, and what should be life after, because the issue of relapse can actually reoccur. So do we have any other questions? Anyone else typing the questions on the chat box?
Pauline, it's Jackie. I wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jackie, please go ahead.
So I wanted to ask Dr. Joyce if you can briefly talk about your counseling sessions and maybe how people can reach out to you.
All right, thank you. I had actually shared my contacts earlier. If you want, I can share them again. And my counseling sessions, as I said earlier, are professional and confidential. I see people both in person, if you're around where I am, in Kenya, or online as well. And we can organize, I see people across the globe as well. My sessions, I am highly trained in all kinds of different mood disorders. A lot of what, Dr. Pauline mentioned are the mental disorders. I am a clinical psychologist. So I'll take you through an assessment, and then we will do a treatment plan, and we agree on how often or when to meet. And then we will begin our journey. Counseling is a journey. And in the journey, you begin to shed off the kinds of things that you think you need to stop doing, but it all depends on how much you involve yourself inside the process. Sometimes when people come for counseling, they might say it doesn't work, but it's because they haven't shared anything about what's really going on. And the journey unfolds step by step, and I'm able to guide or give recommendations, but we do not give advice, So that's how counseling works. We begin with an exploration and then an understanding, and then now you can begin to take actions into all these different aspects of your well-being. So if you like, I can share my contacts again. I see another hand raised.
Okay, I can ask Dr. Wangari, during the COVID season,
sure.
During the COVID season, we had a lot of cases of young people experiencing psychological challenges. And one of my biggest challenges is to respond to parents who say, how do we know when we need to be worried? Like a parent has a child who is behaving differently, but then they are also they are not sure whether this is behavior, whether this is disrespect, or whether this is illness. So at what point should they really be worried?
Yeah, I really get the question about, character, choice versus a real mental disorder. For instance, a lot of youngsters who may suffer conduct disorder, may actually be labeled as being, oppositional or defiant, and a lot of times noticing that there is a change is already something. Now, because we know that mental health exists in a continuum, something might begin at just a mild level. Our work is not only to treat, it's also to prevent and promote optimal well-being. So the idea that you can check into a specialist, even if you don't have a, a sure picture of what's going on, is really welcome, because then with an assessment, you're able to determine what could be going on, what are some considerations to take, what is in the environment of the child or young person that needs to be looked into more. I know what happened during COVID is with the lockdown, a lot of us were really in each other's faces. And so a lot of family dynamics began to emerge. And because in the past, people could move freely in and out of homes, now suddenly we all had to be around each other longer. And that actually brought quite a host of an upsurge in violence. There's a lot more, disruptions in the families, and a lot more stress and suffering, and even just sharing a space with people. And a lot of our homes were not even made for, for instance, meetings such as this. And people had to quickly come up with home offices so that they could continue working and things like that. So there was quite an upheaval brought about by COVID, let alone the direct disruption with all the deaths and the losses. So I really like your question. And it's also okay to get, assessments on character strengths as well. Not only what's not working, but I like to use a strengths-based approach. So beginning with what is working and working very well and building on that, because there must be something the young person or child is good at. So that's a good place to start. We always create rapport and connection before we continue into problem behaviors. Thank you for your question.
Well, thank you very much for that time that you took to answer the questions, Joyce. I think, guys, our time is almost up, and unfortunately, we can end. But this conversation will continue just in case you're interested. I think Dr. Joyce shared her website, her numbers, and also Dr. Reverend Njiru. You can actually get in contact with them. Or also you can contact us at Catcher Africa, so we'll be able to direct you and connect you with our amazing speakers. So I don't think we have any other question. I think I can say I'm very happy. But go ahead. We have a question from Eldon.
Yes, it's actually a question from one of the Facebook viewers as well. So the question is from Sam Uchuri, and he's asking if, for example, as a counselor, that you're not able to handle a specific case, and you definitely need to revert to another counselor. So the question is discussing with the other counselor, or you discussing as a counselor, discussing with another counselor without the consent of the patient for this case, is it a breach of confidentiality?
That's a really good question. So we have our clients sign a form we call release of information, which details what we are going to discuss, to what extent, with who. And it gets really tricky in the case of minors, because the rights of minors are actually subdued under the adults in their lives. Where it can get really, really a dilemma is if the adult in the life of a minor is the source of abuse. That is where we have to breach that confidentiality. Otherwise, any adult who is receiving our services has got to give their full consent, and also for me to begin to talk to any other professional, there's a trail of records that shows that actually there was, full informed consent. So release of information is key. So if somebody goes ahead to just begin to share details, that's actually unethical, all right? Now, not all the things that are unethical may be illegal, but it's a very big risk to the profession, and may also have people not trusting counselors. But that only, I think, would be an issue, especially when we have minors, or in cases where people's rights cannot be exercised fully, like dependent adults, or people in severe situations. For example, rescue cases. I once had a situation where I was called and somebody was on the side of the road. They had too much to drink, and that was the situation. So in that case, you cannot ask that person for permission. But if that person is sane and sober, then they should be able to be fully involved in their own healing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Joyce. Like I said, guys, our speakers' contacts and information, they are shared on our chat box. So feel free to copy them and probably you can reach to them later.
You're muted, Pauline.
Oh, sorry, I was mute. I was saying that, like I said, the contact of our speakers are shared on our chat box. So feel free to copy them and reach out to them later. Probably if you need like a counseling session or you would love to have a talk with them. They are free people, you can reach out to them and they'll be great to help you and they'll be able to work with you. So that was so good. It was a wonderful session that we had and I'm so thankful to our speakers who are here, who have been able to take us through this session. And also thank you for our viewers who took their time to sign up for the meeting, to sit back and listen. And it was so great. And you guys are so awesome. And I hope you're still smiling as we move on, as we end on to end our meeting today. So keep smiling, be wonderful people. I think that was good. So I think what I can share and what I feel, I can share my feelings current now. I feel like I had a wonderful taste in my mouth, good food for thought, a whole buffet that will keep me going for days. So thanks to Joyce and Dr. Pauline. That was a good feeling. When good information comes in you and when it's settling, or you feel like it's just taking a walk, relax, and just take a breathe, take in fresh air so that information can be of great help to your body as well. So thank you very much. That was so great and we love you all and it was awesome. So before, I would like to hand the mic over to Robert, probably to say a few things and probably give us like closing remarks, and then we'll call it a day. Robert, back to you.
Thank you so much, Pauline. And thank you to our speakers, Reverend Dr. Pauline and Dr. Wangari as well, and also Brian. And thank you to everybody behind the scenes who was working with us. There's a few things, some notices I would like to say. First of all, we are going to put up a very brief survey for everybody. We very much value your responses. Weldon, if you'd like to put that up, we'll give you a couple of minutes to just respond to these as you'd like, everybody. There it is. As you're responding to that, I will say a couple of things before I yield to Weldon. One is that don't run away if you'd like to be in the picture. We'd like to have everyone turn on their screens and we'll take a picture in a moment. Weldon will lead us through that. And also, as you're answering the webinar feedback questionnaire that should be on your screen now, I would like to let everybody know that our next webinar will be one of our continuing series in education. And it has to do with how to get scholarships, how to apply for scholarships, how to have an effective application, where you can find scholarships to study at the graduate level, master's, maybe PhD as well. That next webinar will be on the 16th of July, Saturday. We will be advertising it, so you can see us at Catcher Africa. You'll see advertising. Dr. Pauline is asking, how does the survey work? Maybe our IT can explain that.
Sorry, Pauline, because you're one of the co-hosts for these meetings, so you unfortunately won't be able to feel it.
Right. The hosts can't participate in that, but we'll have a get together afterwards. Again, so our next survey, our next webinar on scholarships for the graduate level studies abroad, basically, will be on Saturday, 16 July, 2 p.m. East African time. For those of you in Japan, that is 8 p.m. Japan time. For those of you in Central Africa, that is 1 p.m. And maybe there are others. Survey is still moving, so I'm going to leave a little bit of time. And I would also like to say, wow, what a precious couple of hours this was. And how did it fly? We intended to have an hour and a half. It flew right past 2 hours. So much wisdom and so much, I'm going to watch the recording of this myself again, just to watch again and see. Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Dr. Pauline. Let's see now. So many of you out there, we're not getting too many responses. We really, really like them. So please let us know.
So Robert, I've actually ended the poll. We'll be able to share the link again on the emails, and then you can be able to give us your feedback. We definitely appreciate that.
That being the case, why don't I turn the mic over then to our CEO, Weldon, for the final remarks. Weldon. And photo, maybe.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you very, very much, Robert. So first of all, I don't want to go into a lot of probably talking. I don't want to dilute what our guests have said today or spoken here today, which were very, very important lessons for all of us. So on behalf of the CATCHA team, I would definitely would like to say a big thank you to our two guest speakers, Reverend Dr. Pauline Njiru and Dr. JOYCE WANGARI, for the very great presentation today and the very great lessons. I think we've had a lot of questions, and I'm very sure if we would have wanted to continue, would have continued for an hour. And definitely these are some of the sessions that we would like to organize in the future. And thank you very, very much, the WCC team as well, Brian and Dr. Pauline and your team, for the great contribution in terms of planning this event. So yes, thank you very much. And the great CATCHA team, definitely, Robert and Pauline, for the great moderation and hosting this event. So we are very, very grateful. Once again, I would like to remind all of you that, yes, the next session will be on July 16, as Robert mentioned. And this would definitely go into the education beyond borders, focusing more on how to apply for scholarships. I think we do receive a lot of messages on our social media, people asking about scholarships and things like those. So please book your calendars. And then if you want to receive more information on some of the sessions that we'll be holding in the future, definitely follow us on our Facebook page at CATCHA Africa, so that you'll be able to get all this information. And finally, I would definitely like to ask everyone probably to turn on their camera if you can. I would definitely appreciate. And then we can take one final photo before I hand it over to Robert, probably just close it for us. And so let's all turn on our cameras if we can. Then we'll take one photo. I can see people turning on their cameras. I'll give you another 10 seconds to do that. And if possible, please make sure that you're on mute. I can see a lot of faces right now. Thank you very much for joining us today. Great. Robert, would you want to take a photo for us? How do you go about it? Do we smile? Do we... Let's take it over.
Okay, first I'll take a couple of pictures without even telling you I'm taking pictures. Oops, and now let me just get that message away. Okay, everybody, how about a relaxing, happy smile? 1, 2, 3. And now, how about a look of 1, 2, 3. Let me see if I got everybody here. Okay, I'm going to need to do this again. Well, then if you can also be taking pictures, that would be great, as I cannot cover everybody on one screen. So hold on with me a little bit here while I keep on taking pictures. And hopefully we get, excuse me for this moment here. Okay. The last couple of pictures. Any kind of pose that you would like to. Lovely, lovely smiles, lovely smiles. Wow. And one more, last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. Okay. Thank you, everybody, so much. Well then, shall I close now, or you have something more to say? Okay. No more needs to be said. This was a really fantastic time, a precious time. I'm going to think about this tonight as I'm going to sleep. Thank you all so very much.